Thank you, Don, for that generous and warm introduction and for the invitation to join you all here tonight. It's a great pleasure to be here at New College. This is my first visit to the college, and it's terrific to be with New College and its partners as you together launch a bold and creative collaboration with support from the Andrew W. Mellon Foundation. It was also a great privilege today to meet with many faculty who are part of this project and to meet with the other arts leaders. Louder. Wave and I will try to oblige. Is that better? So I would also like to thank all of you in the audience for joining us at this moment as we both celebrate the start of this new project, this new initiative, but also it's a useful moment for us, in addition to celebrating, to challenge everyone associated with this work to ensure that we recognize not only the opportunities the initiative offers, but also why they matter today more than ever. So I would like to begin this talk by sharing with you a little bit about the Andrew W. Mellon Foundation, along with the project that brought us together with New College, Florida, and through New College to many others of you in this room in the Sarasota-Bradenton area. I'll then offer some observations more broadly about the crucial issues with which this project intersects and what we think the stakes are. Although I've framed my title simply as a serial list of sorts, the arts, the liberal arts, and civil society, I think you won't be surprised to learn that I intend to make claims about what the intersection among the three have offered historically, and more to the point, why each matters separately at this moment, and even more crucially, why leveraging their intersections is a matter of no small urgency. And I will add a small autobiographical digest of my personal investment in this topic. As Don mentioned, my initial training was as a performer, professional musician. I then moved into a scholarly identity as a music historian and a music theorist. And as Don said, I work on the Renaissance and how knowledge about music was shaped and shared in the 15th and 16th centuries. And then over the course of my career before joining the Mellon Foundation, I taught at conservatories, at liberal arts colleges, and research universities on 3 continents, and have been deeply engaged with public engagement and with the arts on campus at all of those places in community engagement. And now at the Foundation, I have the great privilege of working across the entire sector of higher education in the United States. So with that dispensed with, a brief overview of the Mellon Foundation, by the numbers as it were. Foundation was created in 1969 with $273 million in assets by the children of Andrew W. Mellon. Current endowment stands at approximately $6 billion. Foundation has awarded over $5 billion in grants since its founding. On average, we award over 500 grants a year of approximately $250 million. And currently we have active over 2,000 grants with a total value of approximately $1.5 billion. So that's the numbers of the foundation. But more relevant than by the numbers is the mission of the foundation. This is the mission statement of the foundation that came out of that 2-year strategic planning process that Don alluded to. The foundation endeavors to strengthen, promote, and where necessary, defend the contributions of the humanities and arts to human flourishing and to the well-being of diverse and democratic societies. To this end, we support exemplary institutions of higher education and culture as they renew and provide access to an invaluable heritage of ambitious, path-breaking work. 2 aspects of this mission deserve highlighting at this moment, and I will circle back at the end of the talk to the mission statement to reconnect it. But first, the what about what the Andrew W. Mellon Foundation does. The foundation endeavors to strengthen, promote, and where necessary, defend the contributions of the humanities and the arts. We are focused solely on the humanities and the arts. We're one of the very few foundations working in that realm. There are some that are arts-based. There are almost none who work in the humanities in this day and age. And the who. To this end, we support exemplary institutions of higher education and culture. The Mellon Foundation has always invested institutionally with the idea that building institutional strength, stability, capacity, undergirding those institutions is the best way of creating ongoing sustainable impact. That's the philosophy of our philanthropy and the nature of the investments we make. And that's background for you. And then to the current grant. The focus is collaboration to build a whole that is greater than the sum of the parts, with the potential for long-term transformation. We believe that this particular grant brilliantly leverages the potential of unlike institutions in close geographic proximity with one another. Some of you know this project in intimate details. For others, you may not know anything about it at all. So I thought that I would share with you the capsule way that I shared this with the Mellon board when the grant was approved, because it hints at the significant potential that we believe the project holds. So our point of departure, remember, I was in a boardroom in Manhattan, so it was useful to put up a map. Our point of departure is New College, Florida. As you know, a public liberal arts college. That's a very special place to occupy in the landscape of higher education. The honors liberal arts college as part of a public system. And that within 3 miles of the college, also well known to you, but not necessarily well known outside this community, within 3 miles of the college are a regional comprehensive, USF Sarasota Manatee, a world-class art school, Ringling College of Art and Design, a 4-year open enrollment former community college, State College of Florida, and the arts campus of Florida State University. Together with Eckerd College just across the bay, these 6 institutions, which share over 20,000 students and 550 full-time faculty. Wow. Think about that for a moment. Over 20,000 students and 550 full-time faculty among them, formed a group that they called the Consortium of Colleges of the Creative Coast. I did have to explain which coast we were talking about to our board when we were there. With initial support from local foundations that included the, I apologize if I mispronounce this, the Brunswick Foundation, the Community Foundation of Sarasota County, and the Gulf Coast Community Foundation. With seed funding, this nascent consortium was launched. The consortium is exploring many opportunities for collaboration, one of the most important of which is that they've created cross-registration for students among the institutions to begin helping those students navigate the riches that these institutions separately hold. Each of the institutions also has a number of public-facing arms already. These are a few of them: the Center for Partnership for Arts, Public Archaeology Lab, New College, New Music, and so on. And as you don't need to tell me, but I have to say that we felt fortunate to learn, the area is rich in cultural institutions, as rich in those as it is academic ones. Jeff Volpe was just making this point to me. Theater companies, orchestras, opera, ballet, major museum, contemporary dance. So the focus of this grant is to begin to provide the connective tissue among these organizations. While the original flow of that connectivity will flow through New College as the grantee, the Foundation's hope is that the grant will create a newly interconnected network of arts and educational institutions that have the potential, and we hope that will ultimately reshape the landscape, that might be represented something like this visualization of new ways that each can interact to have a more public-facing effect and to amplify the work that they're doing. Just from this capsule view of this particular grant, you might understand the title of my talk, or at least a talk with a slightly modified title, perhaps the arts, the liberal arts, and community. But I'd like to make some greater claims tonight about why and how the arts and the liberal arts matter, why they're indispensable building blocks not only of community, but of civil society. So I'd like to start with the middle term of my 3-part invocation of arts, liberal arts, civil society, that is with the liberal arts, and to offer a bit of background and perspective, and also, even if in passing, the significance, history, and context on the role of the liberal arts, and specifically the residential liberal arts college, New College, Florida, in the landscape of higher education in 21st century America. It may be unnecessary for many in this audience, but as I've hinted, it connects with my own background and training, and also, as you'll see, a little bit who I am as a scholar. Most histories of the liberal arts, including a recent blog post by your very own Don O'Shea, begin by noting that the model of liberal arts education descends from classical antiquity, and the liberal, in the Latin formulation artes liberales, as a reference to liberated and liberating. That is, liberation of the person and of the mind. The opening of the person and the mind through the liberal arts. The taxonomy of knowledge in Western thought that's captured by the liberal arts, and in many ways of a so-called classical education, was standardized from the 9th century on. This 12th century illustration, I get to play in how knowledge is made, right? So this 12th century illustration is one of many that could be adduced, but it is one of the most famous. In the center of the circle is philosophy, the queen, and I can't help observe that one of the co-directors of this New College program is indeed a philosopher. But that the philosophy at the center with an unusual headdress. It's a little too small for you to see, but coming out of philosophy's crown are ethics, logic, and physics, the three constituent parts of philosophy as understood really from classical antiquity through the Renaissance. And that seated at the desk just beneath philosophy, the queen, are Socrates and Plato, who are described as wise teachers who inquired into the nature of all things. Around philosophy are the 7 liberal arts. Starting from the top, the very center top, and going clockwise, each represented with the tools of her trade: grammar, rhetoric, dialectic, music, arithmetic, geometry, and astronomy. The classic 7 liberal arts. In this next slide, I want to take you through the ways that those were divided up. The division of the 7 liberal arts into the trivium, those concerned with language and letters, grammar, rhetoric, dialectic, and the 4 others, the quadrivium, which are concerned with various kinds of harmony or number, the so-called scientific arts, music, arithmetic, geometry, astronomy. I could spend much time getting from then to now, but that would be an entirely different talk for all of us. But for our purposes, I want to highlight that in the Renaissance, the trivium morphed into something known as the Studia Humanitatis, the humanities, right? Taking classical language and literatures as that subject of what it was to be human. In some ways, not in the illustrations necessarily, but in some ways, the formulation remains recognizable to us as a representation of divisions of knowledge and modes of study, and the philosophers do still claim to hold the keys to the kingdom. But in the proliferation of modes of knowledge production, the liberal arts has moved from a what of these subjects to a how, language that you will recognize about the virtues of critical reading and analysis, about problem solving, creativity, building leaders. And the liberal arts do that and more, which I'll return to momentarily. But let me come back to the original image, but now share the full image with you. Because the image is not just the circle of the 7 liberal arts. Below the 7 liberal arts, that encircle philosophy, are 4 men who are seated at desks. Not merely outside the circle, but completely beyond the realm of knowledge and philosophy. The text tells us, and the headers that are on them, is that these are people who produce merely tales, fables, frivolous poetry, magic spells. Each of them, you probably can't see in the back, but each of them has a black bird on his shoulder, right? The antithesis of the white dove, or as the banner tells us on philosophy, her God-given wisdom. So this separation in a nutshell, in a very reductive nutshell, is what will remain true for the liberal arts and the arts in many ways well through the mid-20th century. That is a separation of the theoretical and the practical, of the mind and the body, of those within and those without, of the arts as dangerous, of the arts as inspired by other, and that will shape, again, the way that higher education unfolds. That too is a fascinating story, but it's another talk if we were to keep going. But so I want to take us from that notion of the liberal arts and the arts, and just to get you to think about it, and to take you back to, or take you forward from this, way forward, to just over 50 years ago, as the U.S. focused on response to Sputnik and the goal of sending a man to the moon, and set in motion what was to become the extraordinary focus on what would eventually be called the STEM fields: science, technology, engineering, and math. There is a brilliantly successful branding campaign from the late 1990s that got that into almost all of our vocabulary and everyday lexicon. The original acronym was SMET. They tried that for about a year. And then the National Science Foundation called a number of people together, this is a true story, in the late 90s, and realized that SMET or METS was not going to do it, and came up with STEM, and then really pushed it out. But there was, go back now to this moment in the early 60s, there was at just the moment of the launching of all of the infrastructure around science and technology, at the same time, a strong recognition of the role the arts and humanities conjoined, not least as a corrective to and a balance for emerging technologies. One of the clearest ways to see that is to look back at the single act of Congress, it was just one, that founded two federal agencies charged with supporting the arts and humanities: the National Endowment for the Arts and the National Endowment for the Humanities. So rereading that act, it's a very short act, offers a salutary reminder of priorities that were articulated even as the drive toward a focus on STEM shaped our current trajectory. So let me remind you briefly of the rationale by which those two agencies were founded, because I think the argument still speaks. And I've pulled the bullets I'll take you through directly from the text of the original act, but condensed them slightly. First, primary statement: the arts and the humanities belong to all the people of the United States. An advanced civilization must not limit its efforts to science and technology alone, but must give full value and support to the other great branches of scholarly and cultural activity in order to achieve a better understanding of the past, a better analysis of the present, and a better view of the future. Democracy demands wisdom and vision in its citizens. It must therefore foster and support education and access to the arts and humanities. The arts and the humanities reflect the high place accorded to the American people, to the nation's rich cultural heritage, and to the fostering of mutual respect for the diverse beliefs and values of all persons and all groups. This is from, as I said, 1965. The practice of art and the study of the humanities require constant dedication and devotion. The world leadership, sorry, I got one click ahead of myself. The world leadership which has come to the United States cannot rest solely upon superior power, wealth, and technology, but must be solidly founded upon a worldwide respect and admiration for the nation's high qualities as a leader in the realm of ideas and of the spirit. Americans should receive in school background and preparation in the arts and humanities to enable them to recognize and appreciate the aesthetic dimensions of our lives, the diversity of excellence that comprises our cultural heritage, and artistic and scholarly expression. And finally, it is vital to democracy to honor and preserve its multicultural artistic heritage as well as support new ideas. Those are the essential founding statements from 1965 for the National Endowment for the Arts and the National Endowment for the Humanities, which were put together from a single act of Congress. And it seems to me here is a concise and accurate framework for why the arts and the humanities, the arts and the liberal arts matter, and what it is they uniquely offer. A better understanding of the past, a better analysis of the present, and a better view of the future. The fostering of mutual respect for the diverse beliefs and values of all persons and groups. The ability to recognize and appreciate the aesthetic dimensions of our lives, the diversity of excellence that comprises our cultural heritage and artistic and scholarly expression, and above all, serving a vital function in democracy. It's striking to be reminded that 50 years ago, the case for the arts and humanities was that they served a vital function for democracy that derived not only from their intrinsic value, but more importantly, for their potential for recognizing, representing, and fostering respect for diversity. And this brings me to some observations on the role the arts and the liberal arts not only can, but we believe at the Mellon Foundation must play in the fabric of civil society, that third term in my title. As a concept central to our understanding of modern democracy, civil society frames the way in which we connect to each other through a network of values and institutions that define us. But as we cannot fail to observe, It is a social environment increasingly beset by intolerance, threats to freedom of belief and action, and an inability to pursue common goals. In our work at the Mellon Foundation with institutions from across the country, we are confronted daily by the imperative to address the pressing challenges of diversity, equity, and inclusion in the academy and in our democracy. Foundation is leading these conversations nationally through an initiative called Our Compelling Interest, the value of diversity for a democratic and prosperous society. And we are actively supporting a number of promising initiatives on campuses and in institutions beyond. This is the cover of the first book released 2 months ago in what will be a 12-volume series of research that we're supporting. The third volume will be on the arts. Thelma Golden will be the editor and author of that volume. One of the arguments within this volume that Danielle Allen makes in her contribution is the need for social connectedness that bridges ties across lines of difference as the means to achieve a civil society in a context of great diversity. Bridging ties are those that connect people across demographic cleavage. Bridging doesn't occur merely by assembling a diverse group of people in a single location, but rather when individuals are able to interact successfully across boundaries of difference. Unprecedented social diversity presents a challenge because it requires us to succeed in unprecedented ways in learning how to generate and support these kinds of bridging ties. Intergroup dialogue, based on the premise that sustained and meaningful contact, dialogue, education are necessary to address issues of conflict and promote the creation of just communities, are clearly needed to encourage sustained conversation, exploration of conflict and common ground, action to improve relations, address social injustice. To the degree that a society achieves greater levels of connectedness depends on successful modes of interaction to build the foundations of civil society. And this is where I return to the role of the arts, that the arts and the liberal arts can play. In the residential liberal arts college experience at its best, students model social interaction and dialogue. They practice building community from diverse perspectives. And at its core, a liberal arts education reflects a fundamental philosophy that individuals who benefit from the education do so not just for personal advancement, but in order to contribute to society at large. It's vital that we don't lose sight of that role and that obligation. It has become a commonplace for governors, legislatures, and others to dismiss the efficacy of one or another major, or to dismiss the value of the liberal arts education or of the arts. You wouldn't know anything here about that. And to argue that the role of colleges and universities is that of workforce development. Often the arts and the liberal arts are back on their heels, responding in kind to arguments that are primarily economic in their own terms. And don't get me wrong, there's an important case to make about the arts as an economic engine and about the disproportionate role that liberal arts colleges have in producing the next generation of leaders, lifelong learners who are nimble and creative thinkers who will address the problems of tomorrow. But we have given up much if we make the argument only in these terms, and doing so will only exacerbate the chasm that seems to be engulfing American society at the moment while lessening the key role that the arts and the liberal arts can occupy in building our social fabric. I say we will have given up much because those entering the workforce at whatever stage from whatever education benefit from the opportunities that the arts and the liberal arts bring. As the Mellon Foundation has begun to partner with community colleges and with prison education, we are struck by the incredible demand for liberal arts as part of the general education. The ways in which courses like What is Work address pressing social issues from historical, religious, and literary perspectives that students find highly engaging and deeply meaningful. I'm no doubt speaking in many ways to the converted in this room as liberal arts and/or arts supporters, but the so-called soft skills that the arts and the liberal arts bring confer great benefits. In providing a window into how the world operates from the perspectives of another, literature, plays, films open the possibility of developing empathy, one of the most sorely needed qualities in developing dialogue rather than competing monologues. History and philosophy, among other disciplines, provide the context for understanding and questioning our world as it is, as well as imagining what it may become. Art offers an invitation to multi-layered ways of knowing, expressing, and communicating. It has the capacity to teach us to see differently and anew. Music and dance, the ability to embody knowledge. As described in a recent report from the American Academy of Arts and Sciences called The Heart of the Matter, together, the arts and the liberal arts offer a source of national memory and civic vigor, cultural understanding and communication, individual fulfillment, and the ideals that we hold in common. The humanities remind us where we've been and help us envision where we're going. Emphasizing critical perspective and imaginative response, languages, literature, history, film, civics, philosophy, religion, the arts foster creativity, appreciation of our commonalities and our differences, and knowledge of all kinds. Together, they help us understand what it is to be human and to connect with our global community. We live in a world that is characterized by change. How do we understand and manage change if we have no notion, no understanding of the past? How do we understand ourselves if we have no notion of a society, a culture, or a world different from the one in which we live? The liberal arts provide opportunities for integrative thinking and imagination, for creativity and discovery, for good citizenship. They go beyond the immediate and instrumental to help us understand the past and the future. Similarly, while the arts may serve as therapy, luxury, ornament, they are never merely those. Art has the ability to provoke, to unsettle, and most of all, to offer ways of knowing that rely on embodied knowledge in the senses, in hearing and in seeing. And indeed, it was precisely that embodied knowing that made the arts so dangerous at times. When we picked the date for this talk some months ago, and I shared with Don the title, I knew that I would be speaking shortly after the election. But even then, I'm not sure that I could fully imagine how extraordinarily divisive and rancorous this election season would come to be, and the depth of division in this country that has been exposed as raw wounds. With that in mind, rather than continue talking to you about art, I would like to intersperse a poem by Langston Hughes, written in 1935, but I believe apt for our moment. The poem is called Let America Be America Again. Let America be America again. Let it be the dream it used to be. Let it be the pioneer on the plain, seeking a home where he himself is free. America never was America to me. Let America be the dream the dreamers dreamed. Let it be that great strong land of love where never kings connive nor tyrants scheme, that any man be crushed by one above. It never was America to me. Oh, let my land be a land where liberty is crowned with no false patriotic wreath, but opportunity is real and life is free. Equality is in the air we breathe. There's never been equality for me, nor freedom in this homeland of the free. Say, who are you that mumbles in the dark, and who are you that draws your veil across the stars? I am the poor white, fooled and pushed apart. I am the Negro bearing slavery's scars. I am the red man driven from the land. I am the immigrant clutching the hope I seek, and finding only the same old stupid plan of dog eat dog, of mighty crush the weak. I am the young man, full of strength and hope, tangled in that ancient endless chain of profit, power, gain, of grab the land, of grab the gold, of grab the ways of satisfying need, of work the men, of take the pay, of owning everything for one's own greed. I am the farmer, bondsman to the soil. I am the worker, sold to the machine. I am the Negro, servant to you all. I am the people, humble, hungry, mean. Hungry yet today despite the dream. Beaten yet today. Oh, pioneers, I am the man who never got ahead, the poorest worker bartered through the years. Yet I'm the one who dreamt our basic dream in the old world while still a serf of kings, who dreamt a dream so strong, so brave, so true, that even yet its mighty daring sings in every brick and stone, in every furrowed turn that's made America the land it has become. Oh, I'm the man who sailed those early seas in search of what I meant to be my home. For I'm the one who left dark Ireland's shore and Poland's plain and England's grassy lea. And torn from black Africa's strand I came to build a homeland of the free. The free? Who said the free? Not me. Surely not me. The millions on relief today? The millions shot down when we strike? The millions who have nothing for our pay? For all the dreams we've dreamed and all the songs we've sung and all the hopes we've held and all the flags we've hung. The millions who have nothing for our pay except the dream that's almost dead today. Oh, let America be America again, the land that never has been yet and yet must be, the land where every man is free, the land that's mine, the poor man's, Indians, Negroes, me, who made America, whose sweat and blood, whose faith and pain, whose hand at the foundry, whose plows in the rain, must bring back our mighty dream again. Sure, call me any ugly name you choose, the steel of freedom does not stain. For those who live like leeches on the people's lives, we must take back our land again, America. Oh yes, I say it plain, America never was America to me, and yet I swear this oath, America will be. Out of the rack and ruin of our gangster death, the rape and rot of graft and stealth and lies, we, the people, must redeem the land, the mines, the plants, the rivers, the mountains and the endless plain, all the stretch of these great green states, and make America again. Langston Hughes in 1935, published in 1936. And I want to let that sink for a moment and allow it the time. But I want to come back from that to the Mellon Foundation's mission statement with which I began this talk. And there I highlighted in the mission statement the what, if you will, the arts and humanities, and the who, the institutions. But I would like to close with the why and the how, or as I sometimes hear it phrased, going from what to so what to now what. So the why. The Foundation endeavors to strengthen, promote, and where necessary defend the contributions of the humanities and the arts to human flourishing and to the well-being of diverse and democratic societies. And the how. To this end, we support exemplary institutions of higher education and culture as they renew and provide access to an invaluable heritage of ambitious path-breaking work. That's the framing for this opportunity that we are so delighted to have partnered with New College and the many educational and arts organizations as part of this new alliance. And it's with, in fact, great optimism and high hopes, and with these larger goals in mind in a time of great need, that we look to the potential of the new Arts and Educational Alliance that New College Florida and its partners are forming, and other similar initiatives that the Foundation is supporting around the country across all sectors of higher education, including, as I mentioned earlier, in community colleges and prison education. True community engagement involves reciprocity. It involves co-creation of knowledge, partnership, and collaboration. It is not easy work. And it succeeds only, this is my challenge to you all, it succeeds only when it is mutually transformational for all who are involved. Those lines are multi-directional vectors. We joked in our conversations across the day today that the phrase of mutual transformation had become something of a mantra. The work that will emanate from this project must leverage all that the arts and that the liberal arts have to offer to create connective bonds among multiple individuals and multiple organizations that will forge a stronger civil society, not merely among your institutions in the immediate Sarasota-Bradenton area, but that will serve as models of the ways in which such collaborations can reframe and rebuild the bonds of our society in Florida and across this nation for human flourishing and to the well-being of our diverse and democratic society. There can be no more urgent task before us. Thank you.